as some stars shine so intensely that their glow feels unforgettable. In the summer of 1987, a rising young actress with striking features and a radiant smile suddenly captured the hearts of audiences across America through a small film set in a Catskills resort. And then, just as quickly as she appeared, she seemed to disappear. Almost overnight, she stepped away from the spotlight, leaving fans wondering for years, what really happened to Baby Houseman? Today, we uncover the story behind JenniferGrey and the life-changing summer that altered everything. Born on March 26, 1960, into a family deeply rooted in show business, Jennifer was destined for the stage. Her father, Joel Grey, was a celebrated Tony and Academy Award-winning actor known for his iconic role in Cabaret, while her mother, Jo Wilder, was both an actress and singer. Raised in New York City, Jennifer attended the prestigious Dalton School in Manhattan, where she honed her passion for dance and acting. The path seemed clear, but no one could have foreseen just how high she would rise, or how suddenly it would all unravel. By 1986, JenniferGrey had begun carving out her place in Hollywood with a standout supporting role in Ferris Bueller's Day Off. As Jeannie, the sharp-tongued and perpetually frustrated older sister, she delivered a performance that was both witty and memorable, effortlessly holding her own alongside Matthew Broderick in the lead. Behind the scenes, the two grew close and started a relationship, one that would soon take a heartbreaking turn no one could have anticipated. Then came the film that changed everything. Dirty Dancing, a modest production with a $6 million budget, told the story of Frances "Baby" Houseman, a sheltered teenager whose summer at a Catskills resort becomes a journey of self-discovery. When it premiered on August 21, 1987, expectations were low, but what followed was nothing short of extraordinary. The film exploded into a global sensation, earning $217 million worldwide and making history as the first movie to sell over 1 million copies on home video. Its influence went far beyond the box office. The soundtrack dominated the charts, and the unforgettable final dance, featuring Patrick Swayze lifting Grey high above his head, became one of the most iconic moments in cinematic history. For her role, Grey earned just $50,000, but the payoff was immense. A Golden Globe nomination and a new title as America's Sweetheart. At just 27, she had everything: fame, recognition, and a future that seemed limitless. Every door in Hollywood should have opened wide. But just as her career was about to reach unimaginable heights, everything took a devastating turn. Only weeks before Dirty Dancing premiered, JenniferGrey's life was forever altered by a tragedy no one could have predicted. On August 5, 1987, while vacationing in Northern Ireland with Matthew Broderick, the two were driving along a quiet rural road near Enniskillen. In a split second, the car, driven by Broderick in a rented BMW, drifted into the wrong lane, setting the stage for a catastrophic collision. The impact was fatal. Their vehicle crashed head-on into a Volvo driven by 28-year-old Anna Gallagher, with her 63-year-old mother, Margaret Doherty, beside her. Both women died instantly. Grey survived but suffered severe whiplash and multiple injuries, while Broderick was hospitalized for a month, left with no memory of the crash. He was later charged with careless driving, receiving a fine of just $100, around $175 at the time, sparking anger and disbelief among the victims' families, who felt justice had been painfully inadequate. For Grey, the physical wounds were only part of the story. The emotional aftermath was overwhelming. As the only conscious witness to the accident, she found herself at the center of unanswered questions. Everyone wanted clarity, how it happened, why it happened, but she had no answers to give. The weight of that silence, and the tragedy itself, would follow her long after the headlines faded. In the moments before the crash, JenniferGrey had been distracted, reaching to place a cassette into the car's tape player. Then suddenly a scream. She looked up, and in that instant everything changed. The violent collision and the loss of 2 innocent lives left her carrying a weight few could truly understand. Survivors' guilt settled in deeply, lingering for years, shaping not only her emotions but the course of her life. When Dirty Dancing premiered just weeks later, it should have been the happiest moment of her career. Instead, it felt hollow. The film catapulted her to global fame, but behind the scenes, she quietly retreated from the spotlight, unable to reconcile her rising stardom with the grief and guilt that consumed her. At the same time, the physical toll of the accident began to reveal itself. The damage to her neck, stretched, strained, and torn, led to chronic pain that would persist for decades. There were days when the headaches were unbearable, lasting endlessly, and mornings when she would wake up unable to feel her own hands. What seemed like a survivable accident was, in reality, far more severe than anyone initially believed. The road ahead would be anything but smooth. As Grey herself would later reflect, no amount of success could shield someone from hardship. It was always going to be a difficult journey. And as her story continued, another complex chapter awaited. Her working relationship with Patrick Swayze, a partnership that would prove just as intense off-screen as it was on it. Before Dirty Dancing, JenniferGrey and Patrick Swayze had already crossed paths on the set of Red Dawn in 1984, a Cold War action film centered on teenagers resisting a Soviet invasion. But their first collaboration was far from smooth. Swayze's playful, prank-filled energy clashed sharply with Grey's more focused and disciplined approach to acting. To her, he seemed unprofessional, unpredictable, even someone she couldn't fully trust. So when she learned he had been cast as Johnny Castle, her reaction was immediate and blunt. Anyone but him. It took director Emile Ardolino's persistence to bring her on board, convincing her to give the partnership another chance. Yet the tension didn't disappear. It followed them onto the set. Strangely, that very friction became the film's secret weapon. What felt uncomfortable and strained in real life translated into a raw, electric chemistry on screen. Their differences pushed them to work harder, to dig deeper into their roles, and in doing so, they created a romance that felt intensely real. Ironically, the very thing that threatened the film became what made it unforgettable. Years later, Grey would look back with regret. When Patrick Swayze passed away from pancreatic cancer in 2009 at the age of 57, she wished she had the chance to say what she never did, that she was sorry. Sorry for being difficult, for focusing too much on discipline and control, when what truly mattered was his dedication and undeniable talent. In hindsight, she realized that behind the playful behavior was an actor who gave everything he had, and a partner who helped create something timeless. Looking back years later, JenniferGrey came to see her earlier frustrations in a very different light. What once felt like major issues now seemed small, almost trivial. Even the film's now iconic final lift nearly didn't happen. She had been deeply afraid that Patrick Swayze might drop her. That fear almost stopped the scene entirely. But they pushed through the doubt, and in doing so, created one of the most unforgettable moments in cinematic history. A single lift that would define the film forever. Yet, despite the massive success of Dirty Dancing, Grey's career didn't unfold the way anyone expected. Instead of doors flying open, she found herself struggling to secure major roles. Behind closed doors, industry voices pointed to one thing: her appearance. They told her her nose was holding her back, that she didn't fit Hollywood's narrow standard of beauty. She wasn't the typical girl-next-door image casting directors were looking for. What made it even more difficult was that Grey herself had never seen it as a flaw. Her features, distinctive, reflective of her Jewish heritage, were something she embraced. Her nose was part of who she was, part of her identity. But the pressure to conform was constant, impossible to ignore. Even her mother, who had undergone rhinoplasty, encouraged her to consider the surgery. Slowly, the weight of expectation began to shift her perspective, setting the stage for a decision that would change everything. JenniferGrey's decision didn't come out of nowhere. It was shaped by family history and long-standing industry pressures. Both of her parents came from Jewish backgrounds where altering one's appearance to seem more typically American was not unusual. Her father had done it. To them, it wasn't about rejecting beauty, but about survival in a competitive industry. When Grey was 29, after consulting multiple plastic surgeons and speaking at length with her mother, she finally agreed. It felt less like a risk, and more like a strategic move for her career. The goal was simple, a subtle refinement. Just a small change that might open doors while still allowing her to remain recognizable. First, it seemed to work. The initial procedure went smoothly, and Grey was satisfied with the outcome. Opportunities began to come in more steadily, suggesting the decision might have paid off. But then, something small caught her attention. A slight irregularity, a faint piece of cartilage visible beneath the surface of her nose. Seemed minor, fixable. That tiny imperfection led to a second surgery. One that would change everything. What was supposed to be a simple correction turned into something far more invasive than she had expected. And when the bandages finally came off, the reflection staring back at her was unfamiliar. JenniferGrey, the face the world had fallen in love with, was suddenly gone, replaced by someone even she barely recognized. In JenniferGrey's own words, her nose had been truncated and dwarfed. The very feature that once set her apart, made her instantly recognizable, was now gone. What she hadn't anticipated was the cost of that change. She walked into surgery as a widely recognized star, and walked out feeling like a stranger in her own life. The transformation didn't just alter her appearance, it erased the face the world knew. The reality of it hit her hard during her first public appearance after the procedure, at a high-profile Hollywood event. Just weeks earlier, cameras had followed her every move. Now, the same photographers passed her by without a second glance. No flashes, no recognition, nothing. In one surreal moment, she even stood beside Michael Douglas, someone she knew well, and he didn't realize who she was. It was as if she had become invisible overnight. But perhaps the most painful moment came during something as ordinary as checking in for a flight. When Grey handed over her driver's license, still bearing her old photo, the airline employee looked at it and casually remarked, "Oh, JenniferGrey, like the actress." When Grey calmly replied that she was that actress, the woman refused to believe her. She accused her of pretending, of trying to pass herself off as someone else. The employee insisted she had seen Dirty Dancing countless times, and she was certain this couldn't possibly be the same person. In that moment, the truth became undeniable. JenniferGrey hadn't just changed her face. She had lost her identity in the eyes of the world. To the world, the person standing there simply wasn't JenniferGrey anymore. In a bitter twist of fate, the very surgery she believed would open doors ended up closing them. Casting directors struggled to place her. She no longer resembled the actress they once knew, yet she hadn't transformed enough to reinvent herself entirely. She was caught in an in-between space, unable to return to who she was, but also unable to fully become someone new. It was a strange and isolating limbo. Over time, her story became more than personal. It turned into a cautionary tale. In 2007, the New York Times even coined the phrase JenniferGrey syndrome to describe celebrities whose cosmetic procedures left them unrecognizable. Her experience became shorthand in the industry, whispered about behind closed doors. How she had altered the very thing that made her unique, how she had unintentionally derailed her own career. What was once admiration slowly shifted into a mix of curiosity, judgment, and quiet warning. Still she kept going. In the early 1990s, Grey took on roles wherever she could find them, appearing in television films like Murder in Mississippi, Criminal Justice, and If the Shoe Fits. She continued working, searching for projects that could bring back the same sense of excitement and fulfillment she once felt. But despite her efforts, the major film opportunities, the kind that once seemed inevitable, never truly returned. By 1999, JenniferGrey made an unexpected and daring choice. If people were going to joke about her, she would join in. Instead of avoiding the spotlight, she stepped back into it with a sense of irony. In the ABC sitcom It's Like, You Know, Grey played a fictionalized version of herself, a self-aware Hollywood figure navigating the bizarre culture of Los Angeles while guiding a newcomer from New York through its eccentricities. What made the show stand out was her willingness to confront the elephant in the room. Her widely discussed nose job became a recurring joke throughout the series. Rather than letting others define the narrative behind her back, Grey took control of it, turning criticism into comedy. As she explained, if people were already talking, she might as well be the one saying it out loud. Despite its clever premise, the show only lasted 2 seasons before being cancelled in 2000. Even in the years that followed, Grey continued to work steadily, though far from the level of fame she once seemed destined for. She appeared as Mindy, a friend from Rachel's past in Friends, took on a supporting role in the 2000 film Bounce alongside Gwyneth Paltrow and Ben Affleck, and later joined the HBO series John from Cincinnati in 2007. These roles kept her presence alive in the industry, but they stood in quiet contrast to the superstardom that once felt all but guaranteed after Dirty Dancing. In the early 2000s, JenniferGrey found a different kind of fulfillment away from Hollywood's glare. On July 21, 2001, she married actor and director Clark Gregg, who would later become widely known as Agent Phil Coulson in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but at the time, both were quietly building careers as character actors. That same year, they welcomed their daughter Stella. Grey immersed herself in motherhood, discovering a joy and purpose that had nothing to do with fame, appearances, or the pressures of the industry. Yet destiny had another stage in mind. For years, the producers of Dancing with the Stars had invited Grey to compete, and for years she politely declined. The reasons were deeply personal. Despite what the world assumed from Dirty Dancing, she was not a trained dancer. She was an actress who had learned choreography for a single iconic role. The thought of performing live again was intimidating. What if she wasn't good enough? What if she couldn't keep up? What if she let people down? Her hesitation was compounded by a very real physical challenge. The neck injury she had sustained in the 1987 car accident had never fully healed, leaving her with chronic pain that could flare up unpredictably. Every lift, twist, or turn carried risk. And yet, the opportunity that once seemed impossible would soon become the experience that helped her reclaim confidence, joy, and a connection to the stage she had never truly lost. The damage to JenniferGrey's neck had been quietly worsening for decades. The soft tissue connecting her head to her spine was severely compromised, causing blinding headaches that sometimes lasted for days. There were mornings when she would wake up unable to feel her own hands, a secret only her husband, Clark Gregg, knew. Then, in 2010, a friend and fellow actress, Marlee Matlin, who had competed on Season 6 of Dancing with the Stars, urged Grey to reconsider joining the show. Matlin promised it had been life-changing, and her encouragement planted a seed of possibility. Grey's husband supported the idea but insisted on one precaution. She needed a full medical evaluation first to ensure she could safely compete. That decision turned out to be life-saving in more ways than one. Dr. Robert Bray, a neurologic spine surgeon, examined her neck and was horrified by what he discovered. "You have one of the worst necks I've ever seen," he told her bluntly. Her spinal cord was so compressed that her head was practically hanging off her spine. Any serious impact, a car accident, a fall while dancing, could have left her permanently paralyzed from the neck down. In his eyes, she shouldn't even be riding in a car, let alone performing on a dance floor. That stark reality forced Grey to confront just how fragile her body had become, and set the stage for a decision that would change her life in ways she never imagined. After Dr. Bray confirmed he could fix the structural damage to her neck, JenniferGrey underwent surgery in late 2009 to have a titanium plate inserted, stabilizing her spine. But during the pre-surgical evaluation, he noticed something unexpected. a lump on her thyroid. Grey had been told by previous doctors that it was harmless, a benign goiter, but Grey's instincts told him otherwise. He insisted it be removed immediately. The decision proved life-saving. The lump was cancerous. Capsular follicular cancer, a rare type that often evades biopsies and spreads rapidly to other organs. Grey had unknowingly lived with the disease for over 4 years. Had the tumor breached the thyroid capsule, the consequences could have been catastrophic. Thanks to Grey's vigilance, the cancer was caught just in time. Grey underwent 2 surgeries to remove the thyroid in December 2009. The following month, she returned for her second spine procedure, where Dr. Grey drilled into the back of her neck to remove bone spurs and relieve the chronic pain that had haunted her for decades. By early 2010, after 4 grueling surgeries in just a few months, Grey was finally cleared to compete on Dancing with the Stars. Even then, Dr. Grey cautioned her, saying she might only last a few weeks. He doubted she would make it to the finale. Yet, what seemed impossible at the time would soon become one of the most triumphant chapters of her life. Partnered with professional dancer Derek Hough, JenniferGrey entered season 11 of Dancing with the Stars with a determination to prove herself. From the start, she impressed judges and audiences alike, frequently topping the leaderboard in the early weeks. But the grueling physical demands of the competition soon took their toll. Injuries, stress, and sheer exhaustion caused her to slip behind for a brief stretch. Then came week 7, when Grey staged a stunning comeback, tying with previous frontrunner Brandy Norwood. Just hours before the finale, disaster struck. She ruptured a disc in her back and was rushed to the hospital. Convinced she might not even make it to the stage, Grey somehow found the strength to perform. In a final display of grit and artistry, she danced through the pain and delivered a performance that secured her the Mirrorball trophy. At 50 years old, JenniferGrey had become a champion once again. Reflecting on the experience, she admitted it was far more demanding than anything she had faced during Dirty Dancing. For that film, she had spent months perfecting essentially a single dance. On Dancing with the Stars, she was challenged to learn entirely new choreography each week, spanning multiple dance styles, and execute them at a level of technical precision that tested her limits both physically and mentally. Competing on Dancing with the Stars tested JenniferGrey in ways she had never imagined, but it also gave her something far more powerful: control over her own story. For the first time in decades, she wasn't hiding behind a character or a role. She was simply herself, survivor, fighter, woman who had endured unimaginable challenges and emerged stronger. Audiences witnessed her vulnerability, her grit, and the sheer joy of dancing again after 20 years of avoiding it out of fear. She had stepped out of the shadows and back into the spotlight, on her own terms. On May 3, 2022, Grey cemented her story with the publication of her memoir, Out of the Corner, a nod to Patrick Swayze's iconic line from Dirty Dancing: "Nobody puts baby in a corner." In the book, she pulled back the curtain on her life in Hollywood, sharing everything from her whirlwind romance with Matthew Broderick and the life-altering car accident, to relationships with other actors including Johnny Depp and Michael J. Fox. Grey wrote candidly about her complex connection with Patrick Swayze, the career-altering nose job, and the relentless pressures to conform to Hollywood's beauty standards, especially as a Jewish actress in an industry that historically prized conventional Anglo looks. She explored the legacy of her parents' generation, who had altered their names and noses to fit in, to be American enough, pretty enough, acceptable enough. Through it all, Grey's memoir is a story of resilience, reinvention, and finally reclaiming her own identity. For 4 years, JenniferGrey resisted Hollywood's relentless pressure to change, to fit a mold she never felt she belonged to. She believed she was enough as she was. But the constant insistence from agents, casting directors, and even family eventually wore her down. When she finally gave in, the very thing she had been trying to protect, her career, suffered devastating consequences. Her memoir, Out of the Corner, gave her the chance to reclaim her story, to speak for herself rather than letting others define her. For decades, Grey had been trapped in other people's narratives. The nose job that ruined her career, the tragic car accident that claimed lives, the difficult actress who clashed with Patrick Swayze. In her memoir, she finally took ownership. She admitted her mistakes and regrets, but she also shone a light on the systemic pressures that had led her down those paths. Pressures that many in Hollywood, particularly women, still face today. Grey also reflected on her relationship with aging and beauty. At 62, she said she feels more beautiful now than she did in her youth, when her skin was taut and every feature scrutinized. Experience, wisdom, and self-acceptance have given her a confidence she never had in her 20s. She now embraces the natural process of aging instead of fighting it. The woman who once altered her appearance to satisfy Hollywood's rigid standards has become an advocate for rejecting them entirely, inspiring others to celebrate themselves just as they are. For Jennifer Grey, the focus now is on following her own bliss, seeking the flow of life from the inside out rather than chasing external validation. In recent years, she has maintained a steady career, embracing projects that speak to her creatively. From 2014 to 2017, she appeared in the Amazon Prime comedy series Red Oaks, playing the sharp-witted Judy Myers. She has also lent her voice to animated projects, including Disney's Phineas and Ferb and the Japanese animated film The Wind Rises, proving her versatility as an actress. In 2024, Grey returned to the big screen in A Real Pain, directed by Jesse Eisenberg. There have also been ongoing talks of a Dirty Dancing sequel, with Grey expected to reprise her role. Director Jonathan Levine has been attached to the project, but Grey remains cautious, having learned that Hollywood promises can easily fall apart. She refuses to set expectations she cannot control, prioritizing her own clarity and peace over speculation. On a personal level, Grey experienced major life changes in the past decade. She divorced Clark Gregg in 2021, ending a 20-year marriage, though the two remain committed to co-parenting their daughter Stella. Beyond her work and family, Grey has continued to engage with social issues, participating in the Los Angeles Women's March in January 2017. The actress who once disappeared from Hollywood's spotlight has found a new, self-defined visibility, one built on experience, resilience, and the freedom to live life on her own terms. Jennifer Grey is no longer Baby from Dirty Dancing, and she isn't trying to be. She is a woman in her 60s who has survived trauma, cancer, chronic pain, professional setbacks, and the relentless scrutiny of an industry that prizes youth and conventional beauty above all else. What she carries now is wisdom, and a story that demands to be heard. Her journey isn't just about a career that veered off course. It's a cautionary tale about the impossible pressures placed on women. Hollywood told her that her nose was a problem, that altering it would open doors. She listened to her mother, to agents, to surgeons, and the cost was profound. What was meant to enhance her opportunities nearly destroyed the very thing that made her unique. In her 2022 memoir, Grey coined the term Schnazageddon to describe the rhinoplasty disaster that reshaped her face. The procedure, intended to expand her prospects, ended up erasing the distinctive features that had made her unforgettable. Without them, she became just another face in a sea of faces, a striking reminder of how the pursuit of an arbitrary standard of beauty can come at the highest personal price. Jennifer Grey's life stands as a powerful cautionary tale about the dangers of letting others define who you should be. From the dizzying heights of fame after Dirty Dancing to the years of invisibility following her rhinoplasty, from enduring chronic pain and facing a hidden cancer to ultimately triumphing on Dancing with the Stars, she has endured more than most could imagine. Along the way, she lost her identity, and then fought to reclaim it. Grey learned to embrace herself fully, not the version the world wanted her to be. The journey was grueling, filled with setbacks and heartbreak, but through it all she survived. In doing so, she created a story that resonates far beyond Hollywood, a lesson about the hidden costs of conformity, the courage required to be authentic, and the power of resilience. If you were inspired by Jennifer Grey's extraordinary story, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more deep dives into the lives of classic Hollywood stars. And we want to hear from you. What's your favorite Jennifer Grey performance? Share your thoughts in the comments below.